Good evening, it's Thursday, March 3rd, 2016. I'm your host, Kat Galliano.
And I'm Rebecca Paganini, and welcome to another episode of The Local Live.
As the presidential campaign unfolds, our own Jack Wells talks to residents about their thoughts on presidential nominees.
The village of Mamaroneck becomes the first municipality in New York State to ban the selling of bred puppies and kittens.
What will happen to 40 Ocean Avenue in Larchmont? Coming up, the latest on this story.
The school-based health center at Mamaroneck Avenue Elementary School is back on the district's agenda. More details next.
And 16 multi-space parking meters have been activated in the village of Mamaroneck. Find out where, up next.
The Army Corps of Engineers releases a $70 million flood mitigation plan. Stay tuned to learn more.
A fire on Halsted Avenue and more local stories are trending in the media.
We highlight the Mamaroneck Tigers men's hockey team's incredible game. You won't want to miss it.
Join us to discuss how best to guide industrial redevelopment in the village. Be part of the live conversation in our roundtable with Advisory Committee Chair Andrew Spatz and consultant Peter Syret.
Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is The Local Live.
The fight for the White House continues to narrow down. Super Tuesday revealed Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump as the frontrunners for their respective parties. But what are the political views of the residents in our community? Joining us now is our very own national correspondent, Jack Wells, with a report on how our community is reacting to the developing electional debate.
Thank you, Rebecca. With Ben Carson indicating an end to his campaign, Super Tuesday cut the number of candidates fighting for their party's nomination. I got the chance to speak with local residents, and this is what they shared with us. Let's take a look.
It's going to be pretty harsh. It's going to be a pretty harsh decision. But to be honest, as long as they defend the right of every human being, no matter the race.
I haven't made up my mind between Hillary or Bernie Sanders.
I would vote for Bernie Sanders.
And what do you like about Bernie?
I think Bernie, being from the working class, understands certain issues that I really believe in. College costs and immigration. He's more open viewed. I would not vote for other candidates, though.
I will be voting for no one.
Really? Why are you making this decision?
Because I feel as though none of the presidential candidates right now are really giving me a great speech.
And what are your views on Donald Trump?
I think he's a dangerous man. He's not presidential material, and I certainly don't want to see him as president.
He should decide one day, oh, you know what, I'm rich, I'm going to be president. Need more money. That's the way I think.
A joke, I personally think. And just, it makes me question what this country is coming to.
Who is Donald Trump? That's my view. Why? Why is he in the running, honestly? No views at all, honestly. No views.
Although residents have clearly different views on who should win the nomination, the most important thing is that residents cast their votes on November 8th to have their voice heard.
That's right, Jack. And on the topic of election, we want to remind residents who have not yet registered to vote that the last day to register is April 19th.
On February 22nd, the village of Mamaroneck became the first municipality in the state of New York to pass a law requiring village pet shop owners to obtain dogs and cats from rescue shelters or humane societies in Westchester County or registered with the New York State Department of Agriculture. Proposed Local Law D of 2016 passed with 4 of 5 members of the Board of Trustees in favor of the legislation targeting puppy and kitten mills. The law imposes a village ban on the sale of commercially bred dogs and cats. Trustee Leon Potok abstained because of concerns of an appeal. He spoke to LOHUD about his thoughts on the new law. He said, quote, "I am pleased we sent the message that our community abhors the inhumane treatment of animals by puppy mills, but I would have preferred following our council's advice to first consult with the New York Attorney General's office. I expect that the new law will prove legally defective," end quote. Let's take a look at the significant moment.
I can tell you that when I do cast my vote, that I could not be prouder to be part of any community anywhere in the United States. And I just thank everybody for coming here, because you changed, and you're responsible for the vote. I vote yes.
But now that the law has passed, what happens next? What happens to proposed Law A of 2016 submitted earlier? What will happen to the pet store on Mamaroneck Avenue? Here's what the Board of Trustees had to say about the status of the other proposed law, PLLA 2016.
A is closed. We will not take a vote on it. We will continue it for the next 2 weeks while the village attorney checks with the Attorney General because there are obviously conflicts between D and proposed A. So that's it. That will be continued. It's closed but continued.
We spoke to an employee at National Breeders Pet Store on Mamaroneck Avenue, and they said 10 people will be losing their jobs because the future of the pet store is not bright. As for the puppies, there are still 12 left, and the owner is offering reduced prices to ensure they find a loving home as soon as possible. Village Manager Richard Slingerland told the Local Live that Law D has been sent to the Department of State, and once it's been officially filed, it will go into effect. We will be following the latest developments of the dog law when it goes into effect.
On February 25th, the Village of Larchmont Board of Trustees met to continue their discussion on a moratorium application placed at the property 40 Ocean Avenue. The board has experienced an increase in applications to subdivide existing lots in the residential zoning district and develop additional single-family homes on the lot. This moratorium was put into effect so that the board could have more time to review and study the impact of the construction. Additionally, the board is investigating major concerns like environmental damage and drainage problems. They have been working closely with an engineer and planning consultant to conduct the studies and identify what's best for the community. The board recently received an application to appeal the moratorium but did not make an immediate decision. The board will be meeting again tonight and a decision will be made. The full meeting will be available to you online at www.lmctv.org.
Since May of 2014, the Mamaroneck Board of Education has been considering the possibility of letting Open Door, a nonprofit medical provider, operate a school-based health center at Mamaroneck Avenue Elementary School. The school-based health center will be a primary care pediatric clinic located within the school. There are currently more than 200 of these centers operating in New York State. Open Door is currently running 5 school-based health centers in Portchester and 1 in Ossining. They provide preventive care, sick visits, asthma management, and programs to reduce obesity for free. There's also no cost to the school district besides utilities and custodial services. The success of the school-based health center in Portchester drew the attention to the Community Resource Center, formerly known as the Hispanic Resource Center. This local nonprofit serves a similar low-income population as Open Door and has long been concerned with the lack of health services in Mamaroneck for families without private health insurance. Mamaroneck Avenue Elementary School was chosen by Open Door because it has a high concentration of low-income families. The Mamaroneck School District assigned a task force formed by board members and parents to study Open Door's proposal and to come up with recommendations to help the Board of Education come to a decision. On January 20th of 2015, the task force presented their recommendations, causing different reactions from the community.
Medical center here in Mamaroneck that is comprehensive. There are hundreds of families that have to go outside of the community to get care. For those without a car,
if this clinic comes into Mamaroneck Avenue School, my children will no longer attend the school, and they're not happy about that. They already know that.
In November 2015, the board concluded that the need to hire a third-party professional to conduct an objective assessment to study unmet health care requirements for children at Mamaroneck Avenue Elementary School. And on February 23, 2016, School Board President Ann LeBeau said they reached out to Paul Savage, CEO of Healthcare Intelligence, which is part of Iona College, to come on board to conduct the third-party objective assessment. Savage presented a couple of proposals to 2 board committees who asked questions about how he would do the assessment. Mamaroneck Superintendent Dr. Shaps explained that the purpose of getting an assessment is to answer whether a school-based health center is appropriate for our community. At the end, the board voted to take Paul Savage's second proposal, which will cost the district about $5,000. We are going to keep following the story and let you know when the assessment starts.
16 new pay stations have been activated in the Village of Mamaroneck lots. The new parking meters that have been activated since last Thursday can be found at the Emlyn lot, Prospect lot, Phillips Park Road, Spencer lot, Hunter Parking Deck, and Mamaroneck Avenue. Residents will now have more options available to them when paying. You can either use a credit card or pay using your smartphone. The app is called Way to Park and can be downloaded for free from the Apple App Store or Google Play. We want to remind residents that you don't need to display your receipt in your car, but you should keep it in case you need to add time. Time can be added at any pay station or using the app. There is a 25-cent surcharge for each transaction on the app. If you want to find out the latest changes in parking, the Village of Mamaroneck recommends you to subscribe to the Village updates at www.village.mamaroneck.ny.us/subscriber. Also happening last Thursday, the Army Corps of Engineers did a full presentation about their flood mitigation study for the Village of Mamaroneck. Producer Shayla Navarro has the special report.
Flooding is an ongoing concern for residents in the Village of Mamaroneck, especially for the ones that live close to the Mamaroneck and Sheldrake rivers. Today we are at the Emlyn Theater, where the Army Corps of Engineers will do a presentation regarding a $70 million mitigation plan that tries to avoid future flooding in our area. In 2007, the northeastern storm dumped close to 8 inches of severe rain within 45 hours in the Village of Mamaroneck, causing one of the worst floods in recent years. This natural disaster was a revival of the Army Corps of Engineers flood mitigation study that started back in the 80s with no success. Mayor Norman Rosenblum opened the presentation, emphasizing that the village now has a second chance to work with a federal agency to come up with a solution for the flood zones near the rivers.
There was a study in 1985, and it was completed, and there was a program offered to the Village of Mamaroneck. For whatever reason, the Village of Mamaroneck turned it down. This may be the second and only chance we really have to go ahead with this.
But how will the mitigation plan work? Hydraulic engineer Javier Jimenez and project manager Matthew Cosby gave us the details.
Basically, the plan is channel work, excavating the channel, making it wider, deeper, putting a retaining wall where it needs to be, and in some areas, in the upper part of the harbor heights, some non-structural. Maybe raising the houses or raising any utilities they have, like AC or the furnace, or looking for some way for the utilities they have at the home to raise them so they don't get damages.
In your study, have you found out what was the cause of flooding in the Village of Mamaroneck?
Well, the main reason was the confluence. Alignment of the confluence, you have 2 90-degree turns followed by 3 different bridges. So with this plan, we actually add a tunnel or a culvert to the confluence, trying to realign, adding more capacity to the river, and we modify or remove some of the bridges.
The funding, that roughly $70 million, is cost shared between the federal government and the non-federal sponsor, and that's a 65-35 during the construction phase. So really the federal government picks up a large share of this. So it's a great opportunity for the community to really come in and capitalize on something that the federal government, as well as you pointed out, the state and the county, as well as the village here in Mamaroneck have come together to support.
After the presentation, residents had the chance to speak to the Army Corps of Engineers representative and ask questions regarding the plan. Let's hear the reactions. What are your views on flooding, and have you personally been affected by it?
I've been infected by it 3 or 4 times through the years on Elliott Avenue and Washington Street, where I live now. It sounds like it may be a good plan, that it may help to some extent. I don't know if it'll alleviate flooding totally. I mean, anything they can do is a positive. You know, I'm all for it.
I'm here for the protest against the removal of the Ward Avenue Bridge. I'm not, I'm totally for the flooding, fixing the flooding, but it's going to cause problems if you remove the bridge, traffic, emergency vehicles, property value, all that stuff. It's going to cause a whole problem in other neighborhoods.
The full presentation is available on LMC-TV.org, and the report is available on the Village of Mamaroneck website. It is important to mention that the Army Corps of Engineers is looking for input from residents. They are currently in the study phase and aiming to break ground on the project as early as 2019.
One of the really big wins, and it's on one of the posters out there, and this really drove home to me that we've really done a great job with this project, is we're estimated to reduce the damages on a yearly basis by $3.2 million. And of course we don't have these events every year, so they're annualized and divided up, and that's how we come with that number. The real one that hits home with me is an 86% reduction in risk in main floor flooding of structures.
Whether this plan will go forward or not, residents of the Village of Mamaroneck agree that flooding must be addressed. For the Local Life, and Sheila Navarro, signing off.
We'd like to remind residents that the deadline to provide input to the Army Corps of Engineers is March 14th. They can send their concerns and comments to the email matthew.viazen@usace.army.mil.
Now here's Rob Baez to brief us on the stories trending in our local media.
A fast-moving fire tore through a house on Halstead Avenue in Mamaroneck. The fire started at around 11:30 p.m. and was under control by 2:45 a.m. Monday. The Mamaroneck Village Fire Department was aided by the fire departments of Portchester and Harrison to suppress the fire. Luckily, no one was injured. To read more, check out Aloha Journal News. Congratulations to the Mamaroneck men's hockey team for winning the Section 1 Division I High School Ice Hockey Championship on Sunday. Mamaroneck defeated Suffern 5-1 and will now advance to the regional championship against Section 10's champion. So for more details, head to the Mamaroneck Daily Voice. And great news for pro hockey fans as well. The New York Rangers will be holding meet and greets at Homix Ice Rink this Sunday on March 6 from 12 to 3. The meet and greet will be part of the Rangers Road Tour and will feature giveaways and a chance to win autographed items. This event will be prior to their game against their crosstown rivals, the New York Islanders. This event is open for the public, so for more details, head to rangers.nhl.com. Congratulations to the Tuckahoe Tigers cheerleading squad. They came in first place for the senior recreational division at the World Championships in Florida. Coach Pope had the group practice 3 hours a day and 5 days a week just in preparation for the championships. So for more info, head to files1news.com. Now the next story is for all the foodies out there. Two waitresses, Elsie Lynn and Francesca Barilla, are making a name for themselves on Instagram. The New Rochelle natives are taking their love of food and turning it into social media popularity. They travel all around Westchester highlighting some of the best restaurants the county has to offer. So for the full story, check out Aloha Journal News, and you can follow them at Barilla Twins on Instagram. In national news, the 88th Annual Academy Awards wrapped up on Sunday, and it was a very interesting one to say the least. With many actors boycotting the awards show due to its lack of diversity, host Chris Rock pulled no punches when discussing the Oscars being so white. While the film Spotlight won Best Picture, and Brie Larson won Best Actress for her role in The Room, the most memorable award recipient was Leonardo DiCaprio. DiCaprio won the coveted Oscar for the first time in his career for his role in The Revenant. For the full list of winners and most memorable moments, head to Oscars.org. Well, that's it for this week. I am Bobby Baez, signing off.
We have our local trivia question up next, and don't go anywhere after that because we'll be joined by Andrew Spatz and Peter Sierrett, who will answer questions about industrial development in our live roundtable.
We're live. Hello there. Welcome to the round table. And tonight, as you just heard, we're going to be talking about the industrial area of the Village of Mamaroneck, and I'm very pleased that it's brought to our studio two guests. The chair of the Mamaroneck Village Industrial Advisory Committee, Andrew Spatz, and Peter Surrett from Replace Urban Studios. You're a consultant with the organization.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, correct. Thank you.
So,
Mike, thank you for having us. And
you're
providing
very
the service to the community.
You're very welcome. And it's been just a month now that since you made a major presentation to the Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees and the mayor at a public meeting about a vision for the industrial area. And if I can quote from the executive summary, it says a plan aspires to be a vision that will guide the industrial area to reach its fullest potential in our rapidly changing world and increase the likelihood of achieving economic and environmental longevity. That's quite something. And it's a very exciting plan. Can you give us, Andrew, can you give us a quick summary?
Well, this has been an 18-month endeavor that's brought the community together, both through our committee of individuals who have really worked tirelessly to arrive at the visions and proposals that were presented, not only before the Board of Trustees a week ago, just over a week ago, but before the community last October. We had a wonderful attendance, and we were able to share some of the visions and proposals that we had that would go to that theme of economic and environmental longevity here in our community. Moving forward, but maintaining and celebrating the historical context of what the village has done, both providing jobs, items that are made here in the Village of Mamaroneck, and a place that some people actually also call home. So it was our passion and our priority to make this a collective effort, a transparent effort, from not only from the point of view of our board and our consultants, but also getting the involvement of the municipality. We actually had a presentation before all of the land use boards and commissions, where the chairs and those members as well could come in and provide us feedback. And what's interesting, and I'll let Peter expand on this, is that our initial presentation in October changed to the presentation we had before the Board of Trustees just last week, based upon the concerns and advice and input that we did receive from those workshops and presentations.
And before Peter says anything, I just want to remind our audience that I'll be asking some questions tonight, but you should be able to ask questions as well. You can call us, you can email us, or you can tweet in your question or your concern. The information on how to contact us will appear at the bottom of your screen during this interview. So, Peter, you're from the organization in New York City. You're the consultant.
Yeah, we're an urban design firm that assists municipalities in facing the challenges of, particularly around industrial development.
Right.
And so we went after an RFP that the village issued, and we were honored enough to be selected, and we've been working with Andrew and the industrial committee and the stakeholders for the last 16 months or so.
So what's the picture in the industrial area right now? We all know that it's prone to flooding. That's one of the things that you read in the paper all the time. Yeah. That when there's a heavy rain or, goodness sake, the 100-year storm, I mean, there's terrible damage that can be done and was done to some properties down there.
We certainly have our inherent challenges, and we could discuss about the Army Corps and their study, but I'm very pleased to say that since 2007, we've learned, and so has the village. And I've also, Mike, served on the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee and still a current member of that committee, in conjunction to the municipality of what can be done to maintain the current infrastructure that's in place.
Yes.
And think ahead in advance of storm systems that come up the coast or what have you. Mike, it's important to maintain what we have, clear these storm drains, and also deal with the dam which is maintained in the town of Mamaroneck to release the water levels so not everything's happening at the same time during a perfect storm. So we certainly have our inherent challenges, and taking that in conjunction to what we were discussing, that was one of the priorities. What can we do not to exacerbate and make the situation worse, but perhaps relieve some of the issues, the flooding concerns? And this could either be done through good water management, through the development on these parcels, but also one of my favorite photographs that we've been using for the last year shows what the municipality could do in terms of infrastructure, sidewalks that retain some of the water. There's a wonderful picture from Vancouver, Canada, where the municipality, the city actually start installing some of these specialized sidewalks that actually just doesn't run the water off into the storm drain or into the street. Rather,
But
here,
saves the water. Peter,
here
we
it
have
is
that
right
picture
here.
up?
Yes.
One of my top three.
Okay, in the control room, we can take this picture. This is from the report?
This is from the report, and we did a lot of work with precedents and other examples from other municipalities facing similar challenges. So flooding.
And this is in Vancouver?
Yes,
What we're seeing here?
And they have obviously a very wet climate, lots of rainfall, and they've done a lot of systems to channel water, capture it, hold it in large rainfall events, which is a primary genesis of the flooding in particularly like in the Hoyt intersection there.
Right.
So this is one technique. There's a series of other examples we gave, but Andrew's particularly attracted to this because it could hold such a huge volume of water. And
Well, we just heard an earlier news report about the Army Corps plan for flood mitigation. Is it fair to say that the industrial plan and the Army Corps plan have to mesh?
They absolutely
Or can one move ahead without the other?
I think they can both move ahead independently, but ideally they would mesh. And certainly the work, I can only speak for the work of, that was done by the Industrial Area Committee. It was very much about integration and understanding that the Army Corps was looking at the entire watershed.
Yes.
And our mandate was to look at ways to deal with issues that are directly challenging the 70 acres. And so we made a series of recommendations emerged from the study that would deal with it in the public realm, the streets, the sidewalks, as well as suggestions for landowners to deal with it on their own particular parcels, to deal with large rainfalls, how to capture that and channel that water.
And Mike, I think that's also extraordinarily relevant, the fact that we would complement this is a study, the Army Corps, and this is a project that's years ahead.
Yes.
That we will hopefully embark upon both state, federal, and locally, and county. But what we can do today, it's a matter of what we as a village, as a community can do to help itself. And skeptics, obviously, the bottom line is people, we were just talking about this several minutes ago, feet and inches matter because it can make a difference between a nuisance and catastrophe. So I think that we're all working towards a common goal and we're working to complement one another. And I think this is also indicative of some of the challenges that we've embraced. We're not turning away or deflecting concerns, whether it's flooding, traffic, or other impacts our visions or proposal may have. We welcome the concerns and we've addressed those issues and explored various different ways, and I'm sure as we go through our presentation this evening or our dialogue, we'll share some more concerns that were raised.
And this whole presentation is on the village's website.
Correct.
Anyone who's access to a computer.
All the presentations we've given are on the village's website.
It's a rich area of the village's website. It's the industrial area. I think it's called the Industrial Reports.
Well, we are the Industrial Advisory Committee for the Village of Mamaroneck, and the reports that we're providing to the village is just, we have executive summaries. I mean,
yes, and it's all there.
Although tonight we may find a nice title. Mike, we may ask you to find us a nice, catchy title.
We needed a copywriter.
We have a question that's come in. I'm going to read it from the prompter here. Do you have an estimate of the economical growth in the Village of Mamaroneck if the industrial area is further developed?
Well, that's a great question. One thing I'd like to start with, and I'm going to go to a slide here.
Okay.
There are two things that will really help the industrial. One is the industrial area. There's a slide here that.
Okay, we can see this graph here. Okay.
And this is benchmark. We did a lot of benchmarking, looking at the Mamaroneck's industrial district against its peers in Yonkers, New Rochelle, and Portchester. And what you see here is one example where we're talking about. I believe this is the vacancy. Yeah, this is a vacancy rate, and what we're seeing is that there's a very low vacancy rate. And so a lot of metrics about the district today economically are healthy. It has a large job base, it has a low vacancy rate. But the real question, and I think your viewer was asking, is how do we anticipate and encourage growth and what would that growth be.
But didn't you identify 700,000 square
Right
feet
now,
of available space?
Right now, there's over 700,000 square feet of development potential that exists that hasn't been captured in the district.
I see.
And one thing we worked a lot with is to understand that the existing uses there, the industrial existing uses are, again, economically strong base, and we want to make sure they can sail on and continue to be the anchor to the village in terms of economics. And so we looked at a lot of examples of industries that could come to the village that are sympathetic and work either at different times or work with the current uses that occur there. And so one of the things that came out of economic analysis is there's great demand for industrial space for certain industries that are that are currently predominantly in New York City. So artisan foods, for example, the cost per square foot for industrial space in the city is ever rising, and there's less and less that's being wiped out. And so a lot of research has shown us a lot of these particular artisan food manufacturers and creators are looking for spaces north of the city, closer to where they're getting their initial product from the farms, but also can easily reach the city. The I-95 corridor location upon which the village is located is ideal for this. And so there's a real demand for that. There's a demand and a need for sports and recreational uses. This has proved out also that there's a high demand in the village itself. And
we're talking about indoor recreation,
like a soccer recreation
lacrosse.
Kind of lacrosse, that kind of space. And so proved out that. Also there's a demand for co-working or flexible kind of new workspaces that could exist. This is the WeWorks, a shared desk model, shared office model is emerging as.
And because we're so close, not only to 95, but Metro North is right there, so commuters could come from north or south of us and be in Mamaroneck and
the Mamaroneck in the industrial district in particular is super well connected transit-wise, no matter what modality you choose. It is well connected in terms of communication infrastructure. It sits at a very ripe nexus for high-speed internet and connections there. So it's great, that kind of infrastructure. Those are attractive. It has a good building stock, and it has development potential to do more. And it has a very engaged business community that's, as Andrew's a representative of, that's engaged, passionate, and wants to lead the district to a better future.
Mike, I think that the one thing that drew us, and you can just, from this several minutes, ascertain what drew us to replace is the fresh and philosophical approach that they brought, not only to the community, but to assist us as a committee. And using statistics, economic, social, and cultural, environmental factors, all of which came into play because there was a litany of ideas and suggestions that we all had. And
you actually made them part of the report, because as I was doing some research for this discussion, I saw some areas that were included because of the workshop session.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
You put them in a different color, so it was very easy for me to see what was added, what was perhaps taken out.
And that was one of the matrix that we had. That
yes, if we could show this on the screen here.
Yeah. What came out of it was, and this is about trying to make an actionable, doable, and clear path. If this is a vision, how do you get to that vision? And one of the things, the central question is, and we always say this, in a world that's defined more by Google than Ford Motors, what does an industrial district mean today?
Right.
And so what we did is a series, we grouped, and tomorrow, but we grouped them into a series of sort of larger buckets of economic, physical systems, social, cultural systems, and natural systems. And there's 40 different strategies that are pinned against time, from what we call the low-hanging fruit, but the short-term, easy to actualize, to the longer things that may require more time or study.
And let's talk about the short-term. For example, one of the themes across the country are truck fairs, food truck fairs. Close down one of the streets on the weekend on Center Avenue, bring in the food trucks, have a festival. We met with the Arts Council here in the village about doing some projects down there. Make the village, make the industrial area a destination. Not just a drive-through off of 95, but actually make it a destination. And those are the low-hanging fruits that you can actually ascertain without having to go and do zoning changes. It puts us on the map, and says, hey, we're here, we're
Right.
ready for you.
And another suggestion was to mark the area.
Yeah, and as you can see,
Have an entrance.
And it's somehow
Gateway.
Somehow make a gateway.
If we could put this.
Okay, can we see this one on the screen?
A gateway that would allow people to do what Andrew said, understand that the industrial district's not just some weird land you zip past when you get home at night, but actually a place where important things are happening for the village, and a place you may want to go and do things and understand its significance. And
We have another question that's come in. This viewer says, what would be the cost of the various projects, and what are the following steps for this to happen? So some of these projects, as we're talking about, like the events, the food truck fair, that's doable
and
short term.
Yeah.
I'll let you do more of the finance aspect of it.
Okay.
I've asked at the conclusion of our presentation this last week before the Board of Trustees, I've asked the Board of Trustees to assist us in implementing the vision and proposals that we arrived at, and to allow us as a committee to remain composed, the composition of the committee, and to act as the ambassadors of goodwill to this project and further ascertain the needs of the industrial area and the residents alike. And what do I mean by that, Mike? What I mean is what we presented a week ago and back in October. This is not set in stone. This is something that is going to change, evolve. That is the purpose. So if individuals in the community, whether you're residents or a business owner or a tenant, you don't have to fear that this was set in stone. It's going to change. And the market will obviously dictate in terms of what actually occurs and what takes and what gets the appropriate traction. But the fact is that this is an evolving process. But what we need to start with is we have to revisit the zoning. Right now, you could do light industrial throughout the area, but you can't sell a sandwich 150 feet off Finnemore Road. It's counterintuitive. We want to actually make it more inclusive, not exclusive, and more importantly, we're not pushing people out. The current uses will remain, but we want to be able to bring in more opportunities for business. So it's not a matter of saying, well, if I'm doing X, Y, Z today, 5 years from now, do I have to worry I'm not going to be able to? Absolutely not. That's not the purpose. We want to make it more inclusive. So if you want to sell that sandwich 150 feet off Finnemore Road, if you want to have an indoor sports facility or an art gallery where you're selling paintings, you can do that 150 feet off Finnemore Road.
Yeah, and then I think particularly about the cost concerns. We hear you, and they're structured were ones that are things that quickly do to activate the district, like the food trucks, which is a very low cost, if not no cost activity, in zoning resolution changes and things like that. There are two other kinds of actions, ones that require additional study. And Winston Churchill has a great quote, "You're better to
you're on live TV, get it right.
Yeah, no, I'm fumbling on it. But basically saying that all good arguments hover over known facts. And there's a lot of challenges like traffic. The exact mechanics of how traffic flows at different times of the day should be analyzed and studied. This will take a little effort and a little money to do this, but once it does, I think it'll allow the village to intelligently come up with a strategy to deal with concerns we heard from residents that sit in Washingtonville to the north, cars coming through and shortcutting through them, or the residents to the south of the industrial district who have the same issues. There's strategies to deal with that still allow their community to be connected and vibrant and not cut off and isolated, but understand that and how to channel the traffic through. This will require extra effort, but it would be worth it. Those are what we listed as midterm or long-term goals, because it will require time and effort to position it within the community to do it, identify funding sources, hopefully grants or something like that would allow the village to understand where they are. So once you've identified and study these further ones, then you'd have to actualize and implement those. And some of those might be like a streetscape improvement thing. As you can see from the rendering that came up, we did a lot of...
that was a picture of what one of the streets might look like.
Yeah, what Waverly might look like. And one of the things that, the reason we like to show it, I'm sorry, I'm trying to scream towards it, but...
I think they had it up just a minute ago.
Can we see that picture back again, please?
Yeah. On that, what we see is a vision sort of what the district could be, and it identifies a lot of the challenges. We saw a mixing of different uses. So we see industrial uses there. We see traffic calming by changing some of the paving or some pattern. We're not saying it's literally that, but in some way adjusting and changing that. Making loading and of trucks and commerce.
There it is.
By removing a curb and allowing some trucks to pull up, but having bollards and means to control them so people.
Right.
Just taking a look at that photograph that's up right now, Mike, you can see you actually.
Let's go back to that picture again for a second.
Celebrating the existing and historical context by the uses, and then the foreground you can see the sports facility, and on the side you can see what Peter was just making reference to, the traffic calming devices, the way that the cobblestone on the roads. You got you're celebrating the greenery.
I think there may be people watching who can remember when it probably was cobblestone.
That's right.
Before it was paved.
But all the ideas, these are ideas that was kind of go to what we heard repeatedly. As a business owner, I want to be able to still function on business. I need to unload and load on Waverly, for example. So let's remove barriers to that, but still understand that there's congestion. As Andrew said, if I want a sandwich at lunchtime, maybe I should be able to get that along Waverly. So having a mix of uses there, right? Understanding that there are businesses that can coexist, that would have a different hours of operation and wouldn't inhibit. So if different people come, they may come in the evening or the weekends. That idea of making it more of a destination. So maybe that's a recreational facility or like a brewery, you know, Mamaroneck beer or something like that. Could all occur there and would link together and make that a rich sort of vibrant environment for people to come visit and live and be proud of in their community.
There was one zone which was illustrated in the report, which was a buffer zone, a green buffer zone that separated the industrial area from Washingtonville.
One of the concerns that has been expressed to us through meetings we've held and also through emails were individuals that live on the south and north of the industrial area. And we wanted to make a priority to provide a buffer to the north and to the south. It's actually on it right now. And
can we see this picture?
If you go on to this diagram, you can see where we've made sure that Washingtonville, that lies to the north, and then the residents that are south of Rockland, there's action areas, so they won't be on top of any type of development. But also, if you look at the green zone, which lies to the west, we want to use the Sheldrake. We want to make that a greenway to connect the community, the village to the industrial area, then on to the town of Mamaroneck and Larchmont. That is a wonderful opportunity that you could utilize what's there.
And in your report, you had examples from other communities that have done just that.
And I think the bottom line on this is examples like this buffering, the green zones, all these things have been implemented elsewhere. But they're all right for this place. So the greenway works because you have a great river there and there's an opportunity to develop it. The buffer zone is a good idea because of the challenges of having residences right next to an active industrial district. And there, you know, this will allow ameliorate the kind of challenges of noise and sound and dust and things like that are common in industrial areas.
But we're fortunate in the sense that on the east side, we have MTA. We have the railroad tracks, and on the west side, in addition to the Sheldrake, we have I-95. So we are very fortunate in that regard. So being geographically located where we are.
And one of its assets, but also one of its challenges, is it sits in a low area, so it's sort of sunken and removed and not on a prominent high ground. It's not on a hill.
It's on a pinnacle.
It's in a valley, a dell. But that kind of also helps mitigate sound and those issues. But it's a challenge because it also means it floods.
Sure. If people have additional questions or concerns or suggestions, where do they go?
They absolutely should reach out to the village. We have two fantastic individuals in the planning department. We have Bob Galvin and Greg Cutler, who is the assistant village planner, Rich Singlander and Dan Sarnoff, who are with the village manager's office. Absolutely reach out to the village, and we will obviously, we want and encourage and invite the participation and input from the community, because one of the major issues here is who are stakeholders here. Mike, you're a stakeholder. We're all stakeholders. Whether you live in the Heights, you own a business, or you're a trustee in this community, we're all stakeholders and can certainly gain from the success of this endeavor that we embarked upon 18 months ago. And
it sounds very, very exciting, and from everything that I've read, it is transparent, it's well thought out, it provides for future changes. So from my point of view, it's a go. But how did the trustees receive it, and what are the next steps?
I'm very, very pleased to say that at one point or another, each of the members of the board have attended either one of our meetings, presentations, and I can safely say that this is something that we all can agree on, that this is a fantastic idea. And it's actually a unified voice saying that this is something that we need to continue to embark upon. That's why when we went to the presentation and we did our thing before the Board of Trustees, I feel very confident and comfortable with not only the thoroughness and depth of the study, but the fact that the Board of Trustees share that common theme and goal to take this a step further and to implement the ideas and visions that we arrived at. So I do believe that that's something, I know we are the friendly village. And as I said, we identified the visions and the goals, and now we have to embrace and continue going forward. And that's why it's really up, we take it to the Board of Trustees to have them implement the visions. And how do you go about that? You start by looking at the zoning. What can we do to open up the zoning to bring in more business opportunities? So that's really, I feel very confident that the Board of Trustees and that the village elected leaders, officials are on board with this.
Well, as I said before, it sounds very exciting, and I'm so happy that we could present this information to the general public tonight, and I hope to have you back again, one together or separately, and we'll talk more about this project.
Yeah. We can make this a weekly, hey, listen, it's only been 18 months. Actually,
yes.
Mike, this is the second go-round. There was a farmer study back, and I'll leave our sort of presentation or our evening is that I believe with all the hard work and the support that we have, we don't want this to be a footnote, an afterthought, or a document that sits on a table. This is something that has traction. This is something that has a future. And this is something that promises a future, both economic and environment longevity here in the community.
Well, on that note, thank you again. Andrew Spatz, the chair of the Mamaroneck Village Industrial Advisory Committee, and Peter Surratt from the Replace Urban Studio.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on tonight.
And Mike, if I could just add one thing.
One more thing? Sure.
I thank you and LMC-TV for providing such a great service to the community, because this is a tremendously I thought I heard applause.
You did. The control room was applauding, yes.
We appreciate it, and the service you provide is phenomenal. Keep up the great work.
Thank you very much for the compliment. And folks, stay tuned because we have more of the Local Live coming up right now.
This week in sports, the Mamaroneck ice hockey team hosted a big playoff game against rival Scarsdale. LMC-TV sports producer Rob Morietti has the highlights of the LMC Varsity Sports Game of the Week.
This is LMC-TV sports producer Rob Morietti with the highlights of the Section 1 Division 1 semifinal in ice hockey. The top-seeded Mamaroneck Tigers hosting their rival Scarsdale at the Homicks Park Ice Rink. Midway through the first period, the Tigers get their first good look of the game, but it's gobbled up by Scarsdale goalie Sam Seltzer. Remember that name. A minute later, the Tigers get hit with a boarding penalty, a 4-minute major, and Scarsdale gets the game's first power play. On that power play, a redirected shot bounces off Mamaroneck goalie Tommy Spiro, and Jonathan Schwartz is right there to clean up the garbage. 1-0 Scarsdale. Moving to the second, Alex Ewald gets on the doorstep, but Seltzer again is up to the task. Then, off a clearing attempt, Sam Stemmerman passes off the boards to himself, What a finish, and the Raiders can smell an upset cooking, up 2-0. Finally, late in the second, Ewald wins the faceoff straight back to Case and Ryan DeHasia, who snipes it through everyone from the blue line. 2-1 is the score after 2 periods of play. Let's move ahead to the final 5 minutes. Will Kirk rushes behind the net, finds Jason Beanstalk, and that's just enough to get through Seltzer and tie the game. Not 30 seconds later, Kirk again, this time skates the puck out of the defensive zone, stops, pops, scores, and dabs. 3-2 Tigers. James Torrey would add an empty net goal, and Mamaroneck, with 3 goals in the final 5 minutes, takes down the defending champs in a classic. The Tigers then faced Suffern in the Section 1 Division I final, winning 5-1 to take their first title since 2009. They will meet Section 10 champion Messina in the state quarterfinal this Saturday at 1 p.m. at Sportorama. You can watch this game in its entirety this weekend on LMC-TV, Cablevision Channel 77, Verizon Fios 34 at 8 p.m. and 1 p.m. For LMC Varsity Sports and the Local Live, this is Rob Moretti.
You're watching The Local Live,
the only news show on Larchmont and Mamaroneck on LMC-TV.
Matt is a handsome boy about 10 to 12 months old and 41 pounds. He resembles a Carolina dog mix, though he is not. He is very sweet but can be shy at times and should be in a home with another dog. Matt's enjoying life in his new foster home with his foster siblings and running around in the yard with his friends. He is housebroken if kept on a schedule and sleeps through the night in his foster mom's bed. This little guy is ready for an amazing family.
For more information and to browse other adorable pets, go to www.ny-petrescue.org.
Remember, if you'd like to keep us on the air, please support us by checking out our website at www.lmctv.org. We really appreciate any contribution.
And we're also welcoming new interns and volunteers, so send your emails to the Local Live at lmctv.org and join us. We love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Local Live. I'm Kat Galliano.
And I'm Rebecca Paganini. Make sure you stick around, spoiler alert, with Eli Worth is coming up next. See you next week for another episode of The Local Live.
Oh.